Hi everyone, my name is Patty Scott and I'm the president at Southwestern Oregon Community College. Wish I could be there in your class with you today, but I'm going to tell you my story and hope that you find some inspiration in it that will motivate you to stay in school and go off to college and maybe one day work at a college or be a college president. So I grew up in rural northeastern Oregon on a farm between a town of 200 and a town of 900. I was the youngest of five kids. My mom was a teacher and my dad was a farmer. And I graduated in a class about 40 years ago with 31 other students, 17 of whom I'd gone to school with my entire life, almost like brothers and sisters to me. And while I was in school, participated, like maybe a lot of you who are at small schools, in everything. I played basketball, which is my favorite sport, volleyball, track. I spent a lot of my time in 4-H and then later in FFA. I attribute a lot of my leadership skills that I've gained, my public speaking, and just how I work with people to the experiences I had in FFA. I was only the second female president of our chapter, and I was the first female to be a district district president back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. So those experiences helped me greatly. I spent my time riding horses and driving tractor and hanging out on the farm, doing that kind of stuff in the summertime. I liked school. Had to like school. I was a teacher's kid and got good grades. Came pretty easy to me. I did struggle with a learning disability that I didn't know I had till I was 27 years old. Things are a little different nowadays, but that challenged me to find different ways to deal with that, but did not hinder me, did not let it stop me. And when it came time for me to get ready to go to college, like a lot of you, I had dreams and aspirations to go off to some big fancy 4-year school. And basically it boiled down for me to be had a lot to do with cost. And I had gotten a number of scholarships, and I chose to attend a community college about 550 miles away from where I grew up, even though the closest school to me was about 50 miles away. And I went to a community where my oldest sister was living and had a place that I could live initially while I attended community college. And like a lot of you, when I took the placement test back then, I tested into one developmental ed class in math, and which is really where I should have tested based on what I had taken in high school. And I discovered my passion for what I wanted to do while I was at the community college. And that was, I discovered, because the school that I went to was only about 15 years old at the time, and their student services weren't very well developed, I had to learn how to become my own advisor. So I discovered that I have a passion for reading catalogs, which might sound really weird to you, but it kind of goes with my interest and desire to kind of problem solve and figure things out. And that's what you do when you get a college catalog and you're trying to figure out what you want to major in, or you're interested in this class and you want to figure out how that one class can meet multiple requirements so that you're being more efficient with your time. And I discovered that I was really good at that and I really enjoyed it. So all my friends would come to me and have me help them figure out how to get done with their degree as quick as possible. It sounds like kind of a weird thing, but It is. And I still enjoy actually reading catalogs today and helping people figure out their academic journey. So when I transferred on to the University of Oregon, I discovered that they had a peer advising program there. And that's where they take students who are in juniors or seniors, and you get trained to help your peers figure out the same thing. So I became an advisor and helped my peers figure out how to get their degree as quick as possible. And lots of cool stories where, people back then, there weren't as many restrictions with financial aid, and you could really stay in school a long time. They've since then clamped down on that, and you might think, why would you want to stay in school forever? But people did. So a lot of students would come in and they just plop down all their materials and say, what's my fastest pathway to a degree? And believe it or not, whatever that was, they'd get that degree and they would move on to graduate. But I really enjoyed that. And when I was a senior, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was majoring in sociology because I love trying to figure out how society worked and how groups interact with each other. And I just found that major to be very applicable to my interests, and I enjoyed reading the books. When I was at the community college in my sociology classes, I often set the curve, which meant I got the highest score on tests, and that became the A, and everyone else got whatever they got. I don't know if they do that today or not, but just was very easy, and I got good grades effortlessly. So I decided to major in that. But with a major in the liberal arts, you then have to figure out, what is it I want to do for employment? And I knew that I liked working at a college, but I didn't know, it took me a long time to figure out that you could go to college, go for additional college and get a master's degree, so that you had the training to work at a college. So I discovered that kind of by accident, winter term of my senior year in college. And I discovered a program, a few programs that I had to interview for. One was in Colorado and one was in Ohio. Neither were places that I had ever been before, and required me to go visit them and interview in person. So I flew for the first time and went to these states. And funny thing happened when I was applying for the position in Ohio at Bowling Green University. With getting into graduate school required that you get accepted for an internship. And if you got your internship, then you automatically got into school. Well, that required me to go to another college, a community college, and interview with the people there. So this one woman in the program let me use her car. She was an Oregonian, and she let me use her car, and I was driving a couple hours away, I think, with the two gentlemen that would be my supervisors. Well, I had to get gas. And as you know, in Oregon, you just drive into the gas station and it's pumped for you. And even though I grew up on a farm and I knew how to pump my own gas, I did not know how to pump my own gas at a gas station. And I was really embarrassed. And I'm like 22 years old, and I didn't want to admit to these men that I didn't know how to pump my own gas. But anyways, I figured it all out, and I'm dressed in my interview clothes, and I thought, I'm never going to get this position because if they find out I don't know how to pump my own gas. But anyways, that's just kind of a funny story that happened. And I go over to this community college, huge community college, about the size of like Chemeketa or Lane today, and it was near Cleveland, Ohio. And I got the position, and I started as in student activities, working with student programming and student government. And I did that for a year. And then the next year, I moved to another, was called a technical college at that time. So it specialized, it's about the size of Southwestern, but it specialized in career and technical fields. And it was at that school that I worked in career services and helped students figure out, a direction using assessment testing. And we had a new computer program. Computers were kind of just starting to be available in the workplace. This is the mid-'80s. And anyways, it was called the Career Information Systems. And I taught a class, my first time I'd ever taught. It's 1985. I'm 23 years old. And the oldest person in the class was 60. And the youngest person was 18. And I am like 23 and I didn't have a career yet. And I'm teaching these people all about career development and how to figure out, your journey in life. And I thought it was kind of funny. And the people that were 60 just seemed so old to me, which is about how old I am now, which is like so ironic. But anyways, that was a really good experience. And I learned something very important in that class, and that is that we can all learn together in a learning environment. And I learned as much from the kid that was 18 as I did from the 60-year-olds and all the people in between, as they learned from me, obviously, because I knew more than I gave myself credit for. So I graduated with my master's degree in college student personnel administration, which basically I learned all about student development theory and all the different things that you can do working in a college environment. And then I went to work trying to find my first job. And in the early to mid 80s, we were coming out of a recession. So jobs were tight. And I went to different conferences to do job hunting. And I interviewed for a position in career services at a college in Rhode Island, of all places, which I know seems like a long ways away from Oregon, which it is. But my mother was born and raised in New Hampshire, and I'd been to New England, and I have cousins out there, and so I thought that would be kind of fun to live on the East Coast for a while. And so I ended up getting that job at Roger Williams College, and it sat right on Narragansett Bay, which reminds me a little bit of Coos Bay, with sailboats and just the scenic beauty of living on the coast. And I was there, and it was a private school, which is a whole nother experience that I hadn't had before. And but I enjoyed it. It was a small school, and I really enjoyed living on the East Coast, where you could travel to New York City, you could travel to Boston. Learned a lot about the whole Eastern culture and history of the United States. And one year, one of my most favorite years, if you're a sports fan, I got to see the New England Patriots, the Boston Celtics, the Red Sox, the baseball team, and the Bruins, my first and only professional hockey game. And that's the only place in the United States where you can go to the 4 major sporting venues within like an hour's drive of each other. So that was pretty cool. That was fun. Learned how to sail, did all kinds of great things. But I discovered that how much I missed the West Coast, and looked for ways to get back to Oregon. And that opportunity opened up for me ironically enough, back in the department where I worked at the University of Oregon when I was a student. So I went back and became the coordinator of the peer advising program, which is what gave me my start. And then an advisor. I did physical therapy and occupational and pre-med advising, as well as working with just general undecided students, trying to help them figure out what they want to do. And I did that for, I think, 4 years until budget cuts happened, when a property measure was passed and state funding changed radically, and my position was eliminated. And so I started looking for positions and ended up with a position here at Southwestern Oregon Community College. When the college got the Student Support Services grant, which is one of the TRIO programs. And I became the first director of that program and got to come here and actually start that program from scratch. Had to create all the forms, hire all the people, get all the students in, and that was really a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. And I did that for 13 years, half of my time doing that, and then the other half of my time I was part of the counseling faculty, where I taught human development classes, college success, study skills, transfer success, educational planning, those kind of success classes, and did a lot of activities as part of the faculty. And then different opportunities came my way where I got asked to be in charge of more, just basically got more responsibility here at the college, where I became over orientation, became kind of the administrator over advising, counseling, a bunch of different educational support programs. And then in 2006, I got asked to become the Dean of Students. And that was where I was the administrator over all of student services, so admissions, recruitment, financial aid, the other TRIO programs that the college has, which includes talent search, upward bound, still over the TRIO program, international students, I had community ed for a while, scheduling, tutoring, a whole bunch of different interesting student service areas and I was really having a good time, hoping to do some really good things. And then the college went through some interesting times here, and we had a presidential change, and they needed somebody to be an interim, and so the Board of Education asked me to do that in 2008, and so I became the interim college president for like about 15 months, and then the board decided that they wanted to make that a permanent appointment, and became the 6th president of the college in 2009 and the 2nd female president. And I'm about ready to start my 13th year as the president of Southwestern Oregon Community College. Chelsea asked me to talk a little bit about, maybe a typical day, what a typical day might look like, and why you might want to do this kind of work, and how to prepare yourself. So basically the president of a college is not that much different than being the head of a business, or what you might have heard of as a CEO, a chief executive officer, where you are in charge of an organization and you are the ultimate decision maker. And the difference between some of those positions and mine is that I report to a board of education, and that's 7 elected people who represent the community, and they technically are my bosses, and they direct my work through policy. So the college has a number of policies that basically delegate all authority to me, and then I work with a team of people here to figure out how to implement those policies through procedures. And a typical day, there really is not a typical day in this job, especially today in COVID land. But a typical day could be, doing something like this. A typical day could be KCBY or the World newspaper calling and wanting to do an interview, which I have a different kind of video person behind the screen looking at me. A typical day could be, all day in meetings with my managers or with committees that I chair. Could be, like today I was scheduled to to be on a call with the governor at 11 with my other colleagues around the state, but because of her schedule, that got canceled. So that could get scheduled, tomorrow during not a convenient time or at some point in the future. During different times of the year, I normally find myself in Salem at meetings or in the Capitol lobbying our legislators for funding or for advocating on different laws that might be proposed that would be advantageous to us or maybe not advantageous for us. But not a day goes by where I am not doing something that involves problem solving, critical thinking, usually budgeting. We're constantly looking at budgeting. We're looking at enrollment data, understanding revenue streams, relationship building. Spent a lot of time collaborating with colleagues in our community on grants, particularly writing grants or leveraging resources to get something done. Like most recently, we're about ready to finish our Capitol building, a $23 million new health and science building. It's actually a renovation of Umpqua Hall, adding 15,000 square feet to it to create this fabulous new learning environment that I hope that a lot of you come check out if you're interested in nursing or EMT or taking science or STEM related areas. It's just a beautiful facility. And so you have to know how to look at blueprints, to understand what architects are wanting you to do. So that's the one good thing about this job is you're not doing the same thing every day. You're constantly doing something different. Some days, I could start in the non-COVID world, I could start with a breakfast meeting, have a lunch meeting, have a dinner meeting, and be running 2 meetings all day long and not having a whole lot of time traveling to meetings, going to conferences. In today's world, everything's done by Zoom, so there are days when I start with my first Zoom call at 8 and have multiple Zoom calls during the day. And I actually don't think that that's going to radically change when we go back to more face-to-face. I think Zoom has been good, I think, for those of us that live in rural areas because it keeps you from having to drive a long distance just to go to a meeting that's only a couple hours long. So what else would you like me to cover?
The question that I'd like to know is what are a couple of your favorite things about this campus?
A couple of my favorite things. There's a lot of things I love about this campus. One of my most favorite things is where it's located. The Coos campus is located on Empire Lakes, and it is just beautiful setting. I love to look at water. I don't know if it's because I'm a Pisces or what, but I just feel really centered when I look at water and I get to see water every day. And if I go to the roof of this building, I can see the ocean, which is what you see from our Curry campus location is the Pacific Ocean. So both of our campuses have water views. And the other thing that I like is that we're just the right size. We're not too big and we're not too small. And so you can have a really good experience. You can get to know students. I generally teach one class a term, a leadership class during winter term, and it's very small. Last year I had, I think, 4 or 5 students in it, and I enjoy that. But just getting to know the students, and I think the students have a really good experience here. I like that we have student housing because we bring students in from all over, including international students. And that's fun. That makes the learning environment richer for our local students who come here.
Wonderful. I think that's it.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. If you have any final remarks to make, now would be the time. If not, thank you so much.
I think just in closing, for you guys that are in They're in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You're in high school. I think we put a lot of pressure on students to know what they're going to do. And I certainly did not know what I wanted to do when I was 15, 16. And I didn't until I was, like I said, winter term of my senior year in college, and I finally figured it out. But that didn't mean I didn't work to do things to try to figure it out. And the most important thing that I would recommend that you do, and you can start doing this while you're in high school, and that's doing some internships. And I did my first internship my freshman year at the community college, and that totally changed the direction that I thought I was going in, because I hated what I thought I was going to do, and I could not see myself doing it. And so I'm thankful that I did that, and then I did additional ones that helped me kind of hone in on what I wanted to do. And if you can't do an internship, do some shadowing. Go out there and through these videos that you're watching, get a sense of what these careers are like. Because one of the nice things about a college environment is, we have human resources, a whole HR department. We have people who do accounting. We have people who do budgeting. We have a multitude of positions, and you get to work in this great environment with students where the learning environment is just the greatest environment to work in, because students are amazing and you're learning something every day, and you're surrounded with these really intelligent people, who teach physics or writing, and they're constantly educating you on different things, and I really enjoy that. So do explore, but don't put so much pressure on yourself to not know exactly what it is you want to do. You will figure it out, but don't not do anything. And do get your degrees done. And I guess that's my final thing to you. My most favorite quote in the whole wide world is by someone named Les Brown, and I learned this, and I used to show his video in my college success class, and that is, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And so what I see all the time, I see it with my employees here at SWAC, I see it continuously with the students that I've helped over the years, is that they go to school for a while, they drop out, or maybe they get an initial degree and they stop because they think that's enough. And then they have an opportunity, some great career opportunity comes along, and they don't have the degree that they need. So education will never hurt you. And I just kept going. I ended up getting my doctorate because the more education I got, the more money I knew I was going to make. And if I hadn't gotten that, I would not be the college president here at the school. So keep plugging away at your education, and it will pay off for you. And I do hope to see you here at Southwestern. Thank you.